Hello friends, neighbors, John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook. Happy Saturday. I'm going to talk to you today about a Kirkland Scotch again. This is Kirkland 19-year-old. It's a Speyside single malt that's been finished in sherry casks. I think I've talked about just about every one of their releases. So if you want to hear more, check the back catalog. But I will talk about this 19-year-old and then I'll give a couple of comparison thoughts to this 24 because I still have a fair amount on the shelf. So if you have any older sherried Scotch or the 19-year-old, why don't you pour a dram, sip along, and then share if any of our notes are the same. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. As I said in the opener, we're going to talk this Kirkland 19-year-old. You know, Kirkland continues, that's Costco brand, to release very budget-friendly but older Scotch. Now, this is obviously not a Kirkland distillery. It's sourced. Alexander Murray is the independent bottler who finds this liquid. But, you know, it's released at 46%. It's got a killer age stamp at 19 years. My understanding is it spent most of its time, though, in ex-bourbon. Who knows, 18 plus years. And then I heard as short as a 9-month finish in ex-sherry. If that's the case, I'm pretty worried we've got some coloring here because this is dark and rich as a full sherry dram should be. But, you know, is it any good? This year in Canada, I paid $97 at Costco for this just last week. So that's a good value. I will say I looked and almost a year ago, I was talking about the 20-year-old and the 20-year-old was $85. So this is a 1 year younger and a little more. And I actually got this 24-year-old for the same price, but prices keep going up. Anyways, let's just talk the whiskey and see if this Kirkland 19-year-old Speyside sherry finish is any good. That's a nice Speyside nose for me. It's fruity, it's bright, but the sherry is there right away. It's got some darker fruit, some almost a little bit of leathering already. Yeah, whatever that darker fruit is for you, for me it's a really ripe plum or maybe a fig. It's not figgy yet in the nose. It's a little more brighter fruit than that. But I'm not getting any, you know, really any smoke or char or a lot of wood influence. It's mostly about the fruit and then the sherried fruit and a little bit of mustiness, a little bit of sulfur, but not a ton, just a bit. If I was pushed, maybe a bit of chocolate, but I'm not getting it right away. Okay, 19-year-old on the palate, Sancha. I like that palate. It's a little juicier than I was expecting. Up front, you know, red fruit, not quite cherry, but an expressive. I'm gonna stay with plum. Then it leathers out. Goes, oh no, we're more dried. We're some dried fruits kicking around, stewed, cooked. Some spicing, but not, well, maybe peppering, but really more that, you know, Christmas spicing, Christmas cake, right? You got a bit of that malty, bready note, but it's got some body to it. Better have another sip. Second sip, as it often does for me, brings out some of the secondary notes. A little bit of nut husk, a little bit of chocolate. Now I do get the chocolate. It's drier now, less expressive. It's a little more tending toward bitter. This is a more savory Scotch. I know the nose was, you know, I was talking sweet and fruit, and the first thing on my tongue again was fruit, but then it started to go cooked and started to get leathered, and now it's getting a little more spicy, not really peppery, but I'll stay with that variety of Christmas spice going on. It's more savory. It actually has backed away. It's drier now. It's less sweet, it's savory. It's a bit musty, a bit sulfury, a bit bitter. So those are all knocks, but I really shouldn't be knocking it. I will say, you know, in today's market, if I can go in, $97 is tough because I could get the 20-year-old for 85 before, but it's a good Scotch. It's quite flavorful. Nose is good, palate is great, finish is not as great. That's where it kind of falls apart to me and get into some bitters or some mechanical note. Not a lot, but just a little bit going on. but it's drying, and it also invites another sip, which I like in a sherried Scotch. That kind of dried edge of chocolate, bit of espresso going on. You know, it's a good Scotch. Actually, it's for the price, it's a great Scotch. If you're worried about seeing Kirkland on a bottle, put it in a decanter and just relax and enjoy it. I feel if you like sherried Scotch, it's really quite good. Is it, you know, amazing all the way through? No, and I would seek out you know, what's like even at Glenfarclas 15, because I really like that one, probably more than this. Like I'd pay the same kind of price for that, even though, you know, age, whatever, but that one to me is a better full sherried. It's a bit of a bruiser, but this is a bit more refined and quite tasty. I'm early into the bottle. I'm hesitating on giving it a star, but it's tough, all things considered, not to give it less than about 4 stars, which is a really great recommendation. Hope you find it. So I think a natural comparison would be another one of the Kirklands. The only one I have kicking around the shelf is this 24-year-old. You know, it really has all of the same types of numbers behind it. Still Alexander Murray. We don't know where it's from. It's 46%. It's spent a lot of time in ex-bourbon, and it's finished for some time in ex-sherry. I recall that the rumors were that it was in ex-sherry longer than the 19-year-old. So it is absolutely darker. If these were natural color, if they said all over them natural color, first of all, I'd be impressed. And second, I'd really be impressed with this 24-year-old. It is significantly darker. I know the camera won't catch it, but it is quite a bit darker than the 19-year-old. I just can't trust the darkness. So this is 5 years older, and from my wallet, I paid the same price. Of course, that was a year ago. Let's try the 24-year-old on the nose. That's interesting. There's a little more citrus. It's a little kind of slight on the edge of sour. Wow, this is settled into a bit of a dusty fruit. The brightness is gone. This is settled more into just dusty fruit, but this has definitely a little more almond and definitely a little more, there's a sour, like a slight citrus. It's a mellow citrus, so it's got to be some type of orange. Now it's a richer, like a little more interesting nose. Let's try it on the palate. Sancha. So on the palate, this is immediately more dark. It doesn't even have that initial burst of fruit that I was getting here. It is all cooked, seasoned, dried out, you know, fig, prune, darker raisin, sultana raisin, so it's got a thickness to it, but there is, I guess when I say sultana, then I'm getting some fruit sugars there. The finish is significantly better than the 19-year-old. That's where I know I'm walking differences all the way through, but already the finish is dark chocolate, espresso coffee, a little bit musty oak. Let's try another sip. I don't think it's really a surprise if you've seen me walk through the 20 through to the 24 that in a direct comparison, I like this 24-year-old more. It is thicker, darker, richer, and the finish goes on significantly in a better and more balanced way. I don't get the bitterness that I do here. Well, okay, maybe a little bit of, I don't know what I'm on with these nuts, but I'm gonna say like a Brazil nut bitterness, you know what I mean? Like when you get a little bit of that. So maybe there is some of that characteristic bitterness here too, but I really do like this one. This one's easy, 4 1/4. Maybe this is only $3.75, but for the price, you know, it's tough to get a 19-year-old Scotch that tastes this good for $100 these days. I paid out of my wallet the same price, and I really like this 24 and wish I would have bought it. And I got a lot here, but I wish I would have bought another bottle just to go back to when this one runs dry. This is still good though, and if it's in your market, if you like sherried Scotch, it's tough not to think I should probably bring this home. But like I said, having tried it, I'd probably bring home the Glenfarclas 15. Not sure why that particular release is in my mind, but it is. Thanks for joining me down here. Why don't you share your thoughts if you've had any of the Kirkland line, if you've had the older 24, the new 19, new in my market. I don't really remember when it was released, maybe half a year ago. Share it. I really do appreciate your insights in what you like more or what you like less, whatever's going on. That's just the reason why we're here. Share, talk whiskey. Thanks for joining me. Hope you guys just have a great week coming up.